Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's final video. We're going to have a look at weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 15th of January, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. Very much around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at the CFS V2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks. That gets us just to February now, I think. I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just say about the first video today was our 6 AM upload, and we've released a European outlook as well. So check out those 2 vids if you'd like to do that. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on the videos as well. Tell friends and family to subscribe as well. We are grinding our way to 16k. We're at around 15,265. I think so. Our next mini target is 15.3k, and we've only got to put on around another sort of 40 or so subscribers to get to there. So please give us a sub. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. I've got to say thank you so much to Paul Hanna. Thank you so much, Paul, for becoming a channel member for GavsWeatherVids on last night's live stream. Thank you so much, Paul Hanna, for doing that. And I've got to say thank you so much to James098 as well, who gifted 5 channel memberships on the live stream yesterday. So we've got 5 channel members, new channel members, courtesy of James, and also Paul became a channel member on that stream as well. So thank you so much to Paul, thank you so much to James for doing that. If you'd like to become a channel member for GavsWeatherVids, get benefits and perks, all you need to do is click the join button. You can sign up on the next page that you go through to see what benefits you get and sign on that page. We thank you so very much, everybody, for doing that. And Happy New Year, of course, to all of our amazing lovely channel members. Right, let's start the video. We're going to begin in the stratosphere, of course. We've got to, haven't we? So, just to bring you up to date with the latest GFS one, this is how things are currently looking with the blue and purple curves, which is the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere over the North Pole. As we run through over the next few days, so this is our first sort of minor warming occurring early next week over northeastern parts of Siberia. Another warming occurs through the middle part of next week over Siberia. Again, this is a relatively significant warming, but nowhere near a sudden stratospheric warming, of course. That intensifies around the middle of January over Siberia. So again, quite an intense warming, but it's not an SSW that. It is helping to give a little bit of a displacement mode of the polar vortex at its roots, and that's being pushed more towards the North Atlantic, northern parts of Europe. And then another warming starts getting going as getting to the 3rd week of January. We're a long way out now, of course, but we see a 3rd warming gathering pace over Siberia and pushing around towards the Canadian side of the Arctic and the North Pole as well. Whether that one will develop into an SSW, you know, we can't say, but certainly up to the next couple of weeks there is not a sudden stratospheric warming on the way, but it's just an increasing number of warmings of the stratosphere over Siberia, but not an SSW, but it's, you know, it's going to get rid of the polar vortex. Although the PV will be displaced a little bit at its roots towards the North Atlantic and, you know, over towards the Greenland side of the North Pole. So we will continue to monitor stratospheric developments, of course we will. Central in temperature has not updated yet, so CT is still sitting at 6.5, 2.7 degrees above average. That's provisional to the 3rd. I imagine when that updates later today, if it does, that will show an increase, as yesterday was pretty mild, so I'd imagine that will go into the upper 6s when that updates a little bit later on today, if indeed it does. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for rugby. We're starting off very mild at the moment. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of a dip in the upper air temperatures, but through the open part of next week, and then another push up in the upper air temperatures around the middle of next week, more mild weather to come then. After that, relatively close to average with those upper air temperatures. I think there could be a little bit of a cool down that's taking place through the second half of next week, although Having said that, there is a lot of scatter that's going on there. So we've got these mild ensemble members up here. We've got colder ensemble members down there. We've probably got a bit of a zonal sine wave as well. Excuse me. So when you're in zonality in the middle of winter, you generally come out milder than average. Although I do think that once you get into the middle part of the month, we probably lose the extremely mild weather that we've had through, or will have had through the first half of January. So I think the first half of January will be the warmest part of the month, then the second half of the month will go cooler, but probably only back closer to average. And even then, I suspect it will be relatively mild at times. Precipitation-wise, there'll be lots of wet weather to come as well. That's the other story. The onslaught goes on. There may be a little bit of a drying trend appearing there into the third week of January, but really that looks very unsettled with lots of wind and rain to come. Snow row for London, for rugby I should say, looks like that. Not much doing over the next week. There is a little bit more in the way of snow spikes through the third week of January, although again that's a long way off, and I think basically the first half of January certainly is going to be largely snowless away from northern hills and mountains. Temperature anomalies from the 5th to 13th January milder than average, and precipitation anomalies from the 5th to 13th January large on the wetter side, although northern and eastern parts of Scotland looking drier. Latest wind from that from urbannorthschool.net shows that we continue to bring in those mild or very mild southwesterly winds today. And there's plenty of low pressure still in the Atlantic. There's one just to our west. There's more low pressure centres downstream. They all have our name on them over the coming week or so. So this is how the latest UK Met Euro run is looking for midnight on Sunday. Deep low pressure in the Atlantic, wet and windy weather sweeping in through the early part of next week. The low pressures keep coming. So there's going to be plenty more rain to come right way up to the middle of next week. As far as we get to with the UK Met, it's midnight on Thursday, 12th of January, when we still look very unsettled. But jet stream on these areas of low pressure are beginning to move a little bit further southwards, allowing some colder air come back into the north. So on the northern side of these lows, they might produce a little bit of snow, and that would be particularly like Scotland, I would have thought. Meanwhile, further south, just lots of rain. Icon looks like that, again, very wet and windy with this deep area of low pressure over the weekend. And these very unsettled conditions stay with us through the early to middle part of next week as well. Eventually, by midday Thursday, as far as we get to with Icon, possibly bring something a little bit colder into the northern part of the country. Still very wet and windy though, further southwards. GFS midnight run looking stormy. Excuse me, looking stormy on Sunday, a deep low out to west of the country. Further areas of low pressure rattling in from off the Atlantic as we head up towards day 10. It's a bit of an attempt to build some higher pressure to our north and turn things colder around day 9, but nothing comes about. The low pressures of the Atlantic quickly overpower that, and so day 10, another push of mild, wet and windy weather. In the more extended range though, we do start to bring in something a bit colder from the northwest to the north through the third week of January as the high pressure pulls out just to our west, and then this high pressure ridging through the country, trying to ridge up towards Scandinavia, so that will bring frost and fog probably through the third week of January before it looks like mild air coming back in from the Atlantic again by day 10, especially for Scotland. But for England and Wales, the ridge is still there, so perhaps the third week of January could turn a bit drier and colder with some overnight frost and fog potential. GFS 6Z, again, looking very unsettled by a wet winding over the weekend into the early part of next week. Then later next week, we start to bring in some colder air to the north as this low pressure begins to sink southwards. So cold air starts to filter back into Scotland for the second half of next week. Meanwhile, further south, it remains mild. Upper air temperatures look like that, so mild for England and Wales, but certainly a lot colder across Scotland with those upper air temperatures by the end of next week. And then high pressure builds in across the country through the weekend of the 14th and the 15th of January. Now, this is a cold ridge, so that cold air does filter southwards over that area of high pressure, and so it would turn colder over that weekend. And there'd be our first sort of significant overnight frost of the year with this area of high pressure, and probably some freezing fog as well. So certainly a more seasonable feel by the 14th and the 15th of January, that middle weekend of the month. Then the high pressure begins to slip a little bit further eastwards with low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic. That starts to turn things milder out west, but probably still quite cold actually for more southern and eastern areas until low pressure pushes through, taking outbreaks of rain and slightly milder temperatures, and then the high pressure coming back in again. So, looks like we have got a bit of a change here within the GFS operationals, the two of them we've had so far today. A little bit of a change towards higher pressure. I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be a high pressure test, but certainly there is a bit of a hint here about the third week of January might start to break us out of this Atlantic onslaught pattern. We might get some higher pressure, and as a result, we might start turning a little bit colder. I don't want people running away with the idea that we're going to go to depths of winter with lots of snow and whatnot. There's no evidence of that, no sign of that. But it does also things might turn a little bit drier, a little bit colder, frost and fog, and just generally more sort of seasonable feel compared to the exceptionally mild weather that we've been having at the moment. Bear in mind, however, this third week of January is in the extended range of the GFS, so it's unreliable. And, you know, let's just wait and see what happens there. Right, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Work, drop a comment, and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. GM, again, looking very mild, wet, and windy on Sunday and into next week. Again, low pressure keeps coming, lots of wind and rain to come. A little bit of colder air coming back into the northern part of the country by Thursday, as that area of low pressure clears away into the North Sea. I'm trying to build some high pressure towards Scandinavia, struggling though with this deep low coming in from off the Atlantic. By day, can we look like that? Looks like the Atlantic might be starting to run out of steam a little bit. A high pressure is trying to get going over Scandinavia. It was relatively weak up to that point. I suspect that's turning cooler. And again, probably an increasing risk of overnight frost and fog with that. Excuse me once more. And then the ECM at WF is looking really unsettled on Sunday, in line with all of the other model output. The onslaught goes on with the ECM into next week as well. Eventually, some slightly colder air starts coming in from the northwest for the second half next week. That's particularly so for more northern and western areas. And by daytime, it looks like we're trying to build up a little bit of a ridge within some cooler air. However, we have got the next area of low pressure downstream in the Atlantic. So out of all models, I think the ECM is probably the one that wants to keep the onslaught going even to the middle part of January. This is a precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from TometoShow.com. More wet and windy weather spreading in across the country today and tonight, and there'll be further wet weather over the weekend as well, and lasting into next week. Kind of a few wintry showers in northern and western areas, but otherwise just talking about rain. Another batch of wet and windy weather sweeping in through the middle part of next week, and the rain band just keep coming and going really, but eventually starts pulling that colder northwesterly. That starts turning showers more wintry, particularly in the northern half of the country, maybe with some significant snow actually for western, southwestern parts, Scotland, Northern Ireland, northwestern, where we're exposed to that cold northwesterly wind. Meanwhile, further south, it continues to just be rain, albeit a colder variety of it. Maybe a bit of a drying looking trend by a day can. So these are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. Gets us to the 15th of January. 19 members of the ECM ensembles with lots of low pressure dominating from off the Atlantic. Looks very unsettled with that. 18, creeping control and the operation run, bringing low pressure in from off the Atlantic again. That looks really unsettled. A little bit cooler with that as winds come in from the northwest, perhaps to the northern half of the country. We've got 9 just here with low pressure out west, high pressure over France. That keeps us generally mild, but we are raising the heights towards Scandinavia. That wants to get wind into the east, but up day 10, that was relatively mild. And then 5 down here with high pressure sitting over just to the southeast country, low pressure way to the northwest. That's going to be mostly dry. It's technically a mild ridge. It might produce a little bit of frost and fog, especially so down in the south. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 20th of January. 14 members of the ECM ensemble still with low pressure in from off the Atlantic, generally mild and quite wet with that. 10 with high pressure dominating between Greenland and Scandinavia. So that will be bringing a colder easterly flow, I would have thought. We've got 10 here with low pressure in control. That's going to be generally very unsettled and mild. Another 10 down there with high pressure over France, low pressure on Iceland. A little bit dry over the south, looking very mild. And 7 with lower pressure out west, high pressure to the south, and still looking mild with that option as well. There's not much sign of it turning cold either at day 10 or at day 14 with the ECM ensembles today. And then finally, the CFS V2, these are 500 millibar high tolerance breakdown into week periods. The first week period will take us from effect to the 11th of January. The coming week is going to be very unsettled, low pressure in from off the Atlantic, but at least it will be mild. Week 2 will be the 12th, excuse me, to the 18th of January. Low pressure again to our north and northwest, winds in from the west-northwesterly direction, most going to be unsettled and maybe a little bit cooler for the north, mild in the south. Week 3 shows a bit of a change. It's the 19th, 25th of January, a mid-Atlantic ridge and low pressure to our east. Now that could bring in a little bit of a cold snap. Maybe CFS predicting a little bit of a cold snap there through the third week of January, with winds in from the northwest to possibly even the north. It doesn't last very long. Week 4 is the 26th of January to the 1st of February. The high pressure goes south and winds return back to a milder westerly for the closing days of the month. And we're done. So if you enjoyed the video, please you like, subscribe, and share everybody doing that. Drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids. We thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. If everyone who subs brings a friend, we will get to 16k so much more quickly. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. So certainly the onslaught goes on up to the middle of January anyway. There is a bit of a hint, especially with those 2 GFS operationals, maybe the CFS2, bit of a hint that the third week of January might yield a change towards something a little bit drier. Mainly, you know, importantly, a little bit drier third week of January, possibly a bit cold with some frost and fog as well. It all looks rather uncertain and flimsy though, so just watch your space. There may be a pattern change coming. I expect only temporary, but there may be a pattern change coming just after mid-month, but we'll wait and see. Right, just so what's coming up tomorrow, we're going to have the 6 AM upload, we have Jeremy Friday, have a 10 to 14 day, and also we will be live streaming at 10:30 tomorrow night with our first Friday night live stream of the year, so lots to look forward to tomorrow. But for today's video, so this video, for today's videos, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.